goal for the day. I had a bunch of wood delivered the other day. 1 cord of wood, because I was getting low on firewood and it turned really cold the other day. I think it got down to about 4 degrees Fahrenheit. So I had a cord of wood delivered, and you can see this is kind of the remnants of the pile. I've got to get the rest of this moved back into the woodshed. So you may be asking, what is a cord of wood? Well, a cord is one of these antiquated measurements that they use primarily for wood, and it's 128 cubic feet of wood, which is about 600 split logs. I figure if we're burning 10 logs a day, not really every day because not every day is cold, but let's say we're burning 10 to 15 logs a day, that would last us about 50 days or something like that. So the goal is to get this pile finished off, take it back to the woodshed, which is in the back there, and we'll get this all stacked up and I'll show you the finished product. Here's where I've been stacking all the wood. This is the wood shed back here. When I started stacking the wood, it was down to, so I've actually got 2 rows going here. When I started stacking the wood, it was actually just down to a little row in the back here. I probably had 15 pieces of wood left. So I had 1 cord delivered and thought, oh, that might just fill the back of the shed. I'm probably 70% done with the wood pile, and I've got 2 rows going here, stacked about probably 5 feet high. So when I'm done, I'll probably have 2 full rows, which means this wood shed holds probably 2 cords of wood. I'll keep burning this for the next couple months, and then probably have another cord and a half, maybe 2 cords delivered, and that way it sits in the woodshed waiting for next season. Okay, there you have it. That's the finished product. I have two rows here of stacked wood, mostly juniper. And there's a bunch of miscellaneous pieces on the top here. They were all odd shaped, so I just threw them on the top, but you can see in the back, there's about a 5-foot row there, and here there's about a 6-foot row. So I think the conclusion is that this shed holds about 2 cords of wood. So I'll burn this over the next couple months here, and then refill it in a few months with about 2 cords of wood, and we'll be good for the season. Over on the north side of the property, we have a little grove of apple trees, a little orchard. There's probably 10 apple trees in here, but to be honest, they don't seem like they're in great shape. You can see one of the trees right here. So I'm going to guess that maybe when this orchard was planted, the pine trees that you see here weren't all that big, and maybe this little orchard did a little bit better. But now it seems to be struggling a little bit, so we'll see what it does this year. But some of these trees look like they may need to come out, but we'll see how it goes. A little update on cleaning out the annual rows that were at the end of the flower farm. At one point I said that we were going to keep all of the perennials this year and then remove all the annuals and probably convert those back to pasture. So we've been busy out here cleaning up all of these areas. You can see that there was landscaping fabric here. And then there were dead annuals in here. Up here's where we have the daffodils. We're going to keep those. We have peonies behind that. So what we've been doing here is cleaning up all of the dead annual flowers, pulling up this landscaping fabric, and then we'll plant some pasture grass here for now. We're not going to keep the pasture long term because we don't have any animals. We'll probably plant something out here, use it for other purposes. Okay, end of the day here, and well, you can see that we've got the landscaping fabric pulled up. Everything's been cleared out. We've folded up the landscaping fabric and put it in the barn for now. Just kind of letting this thing dry out. We had a bunch of snow on the ground for a couple days, so it made everything a little bit wet. So we'll let this dry out, and then, well, we might do one of two things. Either we're gonna rake it, make it nice and flat, and plant some pasture seed. But this week we also have an excavation company coming out because the original leach field for the septic system is not percolating properly, and we knew that when we bought the house, and we have to put a new septic field in. So the current septic field is actually up here underneath the front part of the flower beds. The county had approved this section here, which is where the peonies and the daffodils are, so we're not going to tear that up. And then over sort of yonder by the hoop houses is where the excavation company is proposing to put the new leach field in, but we're thinking about maybe putting it over where we just cleaned up the landscaping fabric. So we'll get them out here this week and we'll make a final decision. If we don't put the leach field there, then what we're going to do is temporarily plant that with Central Oregon pasture grass. That way we just don't have a big weed patch. But we were also thinking about maybe planting a pumpkin patch out there and growing pumpkins this year just as a community project, and telling the neighbors to bring the kids over and pick your pumpkin and Venmo us some cash. So I don't know, lots of ideas. We've also started taking out a bit of the fence. There are two pastures here, the front pasture and the back pasture. We're leaving the front pasture fenced in, but the flower farm is in the back pasture, so you can't really use the back pasture for grazing. So what we started doing was just taking out the fence line here. There was a fence, looked like this. The fence is pretty old, and so we've started taking that out, but we're just taking out the fence on a section of the pasture between the house and the current flower field. That way we're not spending our lives walking around opening gates just to go from the flower field back to the house. I'm gonna leave the front pasture fenced in for now because we may have some sheep coming out here this year from the neighbor and grazing that pasture. Finally got my little John Deere tractor, or I guess riding lawnmower, back from the tractor shop. It wasn't starting. They had to put a new solenoid in there and clean things out and get it all working nicely. They dropped it off last Wednesday. Unfortunately, we rode it around for a couple of hours and we're having a good time with it. And then we ran it out of fuel, put fuel in it, and it wouldn't run anymore. So, well, back to the drawing board. We've got to get the tractor company back out here. We think there's something wrong with the fuel lines, the fuel pump or something, and we'll get it fixed, and then we'll use this thing as a little workhorse just to drag things around. There's a trailer that goes along with it, and we'll just use this to haul compost and other things on the farm. It's starting to rain right now. The weather's pretty unpredictable here. One day it's super nice and 55 degrees. The next day you're under 4 inches of snow, and well, right now it's starting to rain, so that's it. Time to go in. Talk to you soon.